If a flesh-eating demon from a culture you ghosted kidnapped your best friend and set its sights on you, what would you do? Sometimes, no matter how hard you try to leave the culture, tradition, and obligations of dead people behind you, they find you anyway. Sort of like an obnoxious auntie who shows up uninvited, judges everything you do, and consumes your heart as an appetizer. Samida, or Sam, has been trying to ignore her Hindu religion and heritage. But when her best friend unleashes a terrifying demon, she'll have to study up if she hopes to save her best friend and avoid having her own soul tenderized and eaten. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Pishash that lives inside. Sam was born in the US, the child of East Indian immigrants. She feels completely trapped between two cultures due to the horrific deaths of another Indian family in the neighborhood, in which the parents were found mutilated and the teenage son was burned to a Harvey Dent crisp. She's distanced herself from her community in an attempt to fit in as an all-American teenager. She's also half ghosted her best friend Tamira. I'd say half ghosted because this town only has one high school, which means she sees Tamira every day but avoids her like the plague. Tamira has adopted a swamp goth vibe that's left her isolated from her classmates. She's clammy and gaunt, listening to voices in her head and carrying Captain Jack's jar of dirt around like it's glued to her hands. After class, the teacher Sam's closest to, Joyce, pulls her aside and asks if she's spoken to Tamira about whatever's going on with her. Just like everything else in that part of her life, Sam ain't touching that with a 20-foot pole. Probably a good call. After school, Tamira takes her bloody backpack to a nondescript location where she sets the jar down and proceeds to feed whatever's trapped inside it raw meat. She chants a protection prayer the entire time. Unfortunately, that choice cut of steak just ain't good enough for this Appalachia moonshine genie. Chill, Tamira. This isn't as bad as it looks, but we'll get back to that. With the jar cracked, Tamira corners Sam in the school locker room and begs for her help. She tells Sam that it lives inside the jar, that it called to her from his house, and that all it will eat is raw flesh. She's playing the pronoun game too hard for Sam's tastes.
There's a monster in here. You're such a psycho.
Harsh, Sam, but this is on you too, Tamira. Why are you coming to literally the only person in your subculture you know doesn't want to hear about ghoulies and Sam spots a warped journal on the ground and tries to return it to Tamira. She's too scared and scattered to engage with her. When the door opens by itself behind Sam, Tamira begins to scream. Nerds, you should know by now there's no such thing as too much drip, and today's sponsor, The Ridge, has your back. They design gear to fit your lifestyle, whether you're going head-to-head with the Bond villain, outrunning an Atrociraptor, or just trying to get your gains at the gym. You need a ring that can keep up with how you design your life. The Ridge offers beveled, rounded, and hammered rings in a variety of sexy materials, including 24-karat gold, tungsten, titanium, and carbon fiber. They also have new silicone rings available in matte olive, royal black, alpine navy, gunmetal, and base camp orange. They even offer wallets in the same cool colors and materials too. Plus, if you buy a ring set, you'll receive a dual band silicone ring that'll give you a casual, comfortable alternative for places like the golf course or shooting range. And if you ever gain or drop weight or lose that bad boy reenacting Call of Duty for real, The Ridge offers 2 future exchanges for the same ring with their lost and resizing protection. Join their 50,000 strong army of 5-star reviews by using my link, ridge.com/nerdexplains, and use my code nerdexplains to get 10% off. Thanks to The Ridge for partnering with me on this video. She begs Sam to say a prayer with her, but Sam runs for help instead. The monster doesn't waste any time. Hours later, Tamira's mom files a missing persons report. Joyce asks Sam what happened, but she won't say, and Tamira wakes in a dark red space where the monster tears at her flesh. The The next day, Sam is forced to celebrate Durga Puja with her family. It's a 10-day Hindu holiday celebrating the warrior goddess Durga defeating an evil demon. When her mother Purna has everyone pray for Tamira's safe return, Sam overhears someone talking about a family called Chowdhuries. She asks her dad what happened to them. He says they became isolated in the community after arriving from India because they always seemed to be running from something. The son began talking to something that was there, and they were finally discovered butchered in their house. The parents torn to shreds upstairs, and the son's body burned in the basement. Sam finds the initials KC for the son, Karen Chowdhury, on the warped journal. Despite insulting her mom and neighbors in the process, she leaves to go look over the journal in peace. Of course, it's full of all the creepy, bewitched these journals always have. She finds warnings to keep it in the vessel and feed it, as well as the number 7, which is sacred in Hinduism. I mean, how much harder would it have been to write down what it actually is? In need of a sounding board, she recruits a discount Zac Efron named Russ to go with her to the condemned Chowdhury house. Inside, they find kick-ass murals on the wall of a demon devouring people and a spirit entering or exiting a person's mouth. Sirens cut the tour short and they drop the journal in their hurry out of the house. Too bad for Tamira, who's down in the basement marinating in her own blood. Sam starts to have nightmares of Tamira in the red place, and another one of Scary Larry's cousins. She shines her light at the closet, and it disappears, reappearing when the light goes off. Yeah, so, we're sleeping with all the lights on then. She goes with the, hide under the blankets trick, and the monster abides this most sacred boogeyman law. Already on edge, she argues with her mom about leaving Durga Puja. Purna tells her that they gave a prasad, or offering, for Tamira's return. Their collective belief plays a strong part in their faith and sense of community, and Sam disrespected that. Unfortunately, this doesn't inspire Sam to tell her about the jar, or the dreams, or the journal. Purna accuses Sam of being too American, tells her to come clean about what she must have done to Tamira to make her run away, which shuts Sam down immediately. It's almost as if your kid would have told you if you'd kept your judgmental trap shut, Mom. Sam and Russ go back to the Chowdhury house to recover the journal. She tells Russ she and Tamira used to be best friends, which is why Tamira turned to her to help her with this, and why she feels obligated to help. But after the Chowdhury's death, she thought everyone was watching her for signs that she'd snap too, like it was a cultural thing. Sam suddenly hears whispering from inside the house. She becomes hypnotized, drawn to the basement door, leaving Russ vulnerable to attack. She snaps out of it just in time to see the life ragdolled out of him. Well, that was pretty hardcore. In the aftermath, her worst fears realized when all the vanilla Americans become suspicious of her. Tamira wakes in the basement with enough strength to attempt an escape. She grabs a mace, also called a gada, which is one of the goddess Durga's weapons, and proceeds up the stairs. Before she can reach the top, her foul keeper grabs her by the ankle and pulls her back down again. This thing definitely likes to tenderize its meat, and also likes to tenderize its victims' souls. After a mean argument with her mom, Sam wakes in the night to hear her mother weeping. Of course, it's not really her mom. First, it's Scary Larry's cousin, and now we got the girl from The Ring. Look, I figured out how to stop this thing about 40 minutes ago, but if things escalate to nightmares like this, maybe it's time to bring in the big guns, like your local Hindu pandit or swami or religious teacher who may be able to help. The thing we need to establish is that Hinduism isn't an Abrahamic religion, which means evil spirits like this one aren't parallels for the demons in Christian Judeo stories. So, there's likely no exorcist to handle it for us. That doesn't make getting rid of this thing harder, just different, but we'll get back to that in a bit. With her parents making her feel less safe, Sam turns to the only adult she knows who will listen. She tells Joyce that Russ was killed by a monster that also took Tamira. Even though Joyce is skeptical, she's willing to research the murals in the Chowdhury house. Just in the nick of time too. Sam spots the monster behind her, starts screaming, and just runs away. Well, peace out, Joyce. You can handle that invisible demon I only sort of told you about, right? Teacher of the year, folks. Joyce still looks up the murals. She tells Sam that the creature is a Pishash, a flesh eater and devourer of souls. It has to be trapped in a vessel or human body, otherwise it'll just Pennywise the out of whatever community it's in. Joyce tells her she'll come over to help her, inspiring Sam to finally tell her mom about all of this. Oh, right, your mom. The woman whose entire identity is wrapped up in keeping your family's traditions alive and knows more about any of this than anyone else you know. Purna believes her, like, immediately. Could have saved a lot of time doing this earlier.
It needs to tenderize the soul by isolating you from those who love you. Anyone tries to help you, it will hurt them.
So, you want to call Joyce ASAP, or don't be selfish. She did a book report for you and everything. Purna says that the demon takes a little time to marinate its victims in some insanity juice before consuming the soul. Sam realizes the 7 in the book refers to days, and that it's been a week since Tamira disappeared, meaning she has to be saved tonight before the Pishash feasts on her soul. Sam wants to run out and save her immediately, but her mom warns her that if she faces the Pishash alone, she will die. Just a shame we don't have, I don't know, an entire community of people we could call. Purna leaps up and starts cooking a feast, saying they'll need an offering to summon the creature, and veggies will have to do since their family is vegetarian. Veggies? If I was this demon, I would fucking murder all of you. Just on principle alone. You're gonna wanna pour some baby powder or coffee grounds on the floor so you can track this invisible thing as it moves through your house. Meanwhile, at the school where Joyce seems to live at all times, the Pishash begins its attack. She takes shelter in the locker room. Unfortunately for her, Sam and her mom's gear up montage is in slow motion. Joyce wedges herself into a locker as the beast terrorizes her. While that's happening, Purna teaches Sam the protection prayer written in the journal. It's the battle royale of final exams where if you don't memorize a formula, your teacher dies. By the time the feast is set and Sam lures the demon to her, it's already ripped into Joyce's body. Again, despite being mincemeat, this teacher of the year still manages to send Sam a warning voicemail right before Sam's dad steps through the door and gets owned. Purna shields Sam, drawing the beast's attention to the feast on the table. Unfortunately, this demon ain't vegetarian. No sh. As the monster stalks forward, Purna prays. The henna tattoos on her arm begins to burn and smoke. Sam joins the prayer, and it scares the beast away, but not before attacking Purna too. Sam calls 911 and asks her mom where it could have gone. She says it would go where a death happened, but also warns Sam can't defeat it alone. She says she won't be alone. Yeah, that's a long bike ride to take by yourself with a predator on the loose. When she gets to the Chowdhury's house, the monster's waiting, watching her. She recites the prayer, which physically pains it, but also causes her henna tattoos to burn. The creature stalks after her, turning invisible. She notices powder on the floor and coats it, then grabs a wood club and actually wounds it. Then she runs for the basement and tries to barricade the door, but he rips through, grabs her arm, and chomps down. She spots the golden mace and manages to beat it back. But of course, she drops the weapon immediately. It makes some sense for her, as she would know a Durga Gaga from a Trishula. Yeah. Sam finds Tamira in a bathtub. Don't worry, she's only mostly dead. The Pishash breaks through a nearby brick wall as Sam begins to chant her protection prayer, holding a glass jar. The thing only laughs at her before backhanding her and knocking her cold against a pillar. Cool, so you're gonna eat Sam now, right? Guess not. Sam tries the jar and prayer again. The monster writhes, her tattoos burn, but the demon shatters the jar in her hand before she can finish. Tamira finds a second wind, and they pray together, beating it back. But without a jar, the only vessel left is Sam's body. Sam offers herself. The creature dematerializes, pours into her mouth. In the aftermath, Tamira is saved, and Sam's on a special all-protein diet to contain the beast within, surrounded by friends who say the protection prayer before every bloody meal. Maybe it's time to introduce our inner carnivore to some sashimi and the glories of Korean barbecue. I know it likes its meals raw, but since our stomach acids are cooking it all anyway, let's relocate to Vegas and budget for some choice buffets, and we should be good. Seriously though, the Bishash is a relatively easy creature to beat, even with the constraints of the Hindu faith. We see a few clear characteristics of it here in the movie. It eats flesh and soul, can become invisible, and is physically affected by the world around it. Sam was able to beat it back with a mace, as well as a couple wooden sticks, meaning it has a tangible body. It can also be contained to a vessel using prayer, and so long as it's fed, you can keep it in a jar. The Chowdhuries also seem to have died at least a year before the story started, so the jar lasted a good long while before it eventually broke. So, Tamira should have been able to beat this thing before it ever even got to Sam in the first place. The big thing this movie never addresses is the time period. We know it's present day because Sam has a smartphone, which means both girls have the entire internet at their disposal to get rid of this thing. To start, we're doing research. If I found a murdered kid's journal, broke into his house, and stole a growling jar that I later learned had a demon trapped inside it, you'd think I'd be Googling this thing. The only person in this movie that looks anything up is Joyce. Why? Once we know it's a Bishash, we can look up any fact, call anyone, order anything. We don't even need to involve adults to do it. Yes, I know thematically this movie is about assimilation and balancing the traditions of your culture with who and where you are now, but it's still a tangible demon we could dispose of. If Tamira had Googled the prayer on the jar at the very beginning, she would have known what type of monster she was dealing with. She would also know that actual myths surrounding Bishashes vary wildly between Hindu and Buddhist teachings, and the ways to get rid of them vary too. But the disposal methods are all relatively similar. Prayers to contain it, a vessel, holy water from the Ganges River, and offerings made during religious holidays to keep it at bay forever. All of these are totally doable without letting this thing possess us, even if we don't have big money to spend on it. At minimum, we'll need about $200. Go on Amazon and prime order a 19-pound steel safe for about $60. Keep the thing in the jar fed until it arrives. Paint the protection prayer on all 6 sides, lock the jar inside with as much raw meat as the safe can hold, then ship it internationally for about $130 to a temple on the Ganges River with a note attached and, of course, no return address. If we have a little extra cash and want to be super safe, we'll borrow from another culture to properly contain the beast. We've all heard of Russian nesting dolls. Well, we're gonna use steel safes for ours. We'll buy a small, medium, and large steel safe. Paint or engrave the prayer on all sides, put the jar at the very center with layers of meat and steel around it, and ship it back to India. Boom! Gone in 24 hours. Maybe it escapes once it reaches India, but like I said earlier, the jar held for at least a year before Tamira found it. If we turn the safes into vessels as well, it should be a long time before it escapes. By then, hopefully the Hindu temple read our note, knows what it is, and dumps the whole thing into the purified water of the Ganges. There's another option if we really want to be petty about it. Some stories I read said that Bishashes are summoned by vindictive families to attack certain people who leave their traditions behind, which might explain why it tracked the Chowdhuries down after they fled India. If that's the case, then I say it's time to return to sender. Gift wrap that bad boy for the Chowdhuries' in-laws and wish old toothy boy a happy meal upon arrival. Once the creature latched onto Sam, everything I just said was absolutely doable once she realized what it was and just talked to her parents about it. With them, Joyce and Tamira's mom helping, they should have been able to contain it in another jar, drive to Home Depot or a lock store for a safe, turn that into an extra vessel, and have that demon on a flight back to India before the sun even set. For those reasons, I think It Lives Inside was beaten. Or, you know, live off raw meat for the rest of your life. Whatever.